Hey guys, in this video I am showing you the Aspergers Checklist, and these are 5 common traits that you should really know if you're looking at somebody and thinking, hey, are they on the autism spectrum? All that coming up. Hey guys, welcome back to the TheAspieWorld. My name is Dan. I have Aspergers Syndrome, ADHD, OCD and dyslexia, and I make weekly videos all about this kind of stuff. So if you're new around here and you want to just learn more, remember to hit that subscribe button by clicking the notification bell. And if you're watching over on Facebook, be sure to give this page a like and a follow to see more videos just like this one and never miss a video. Whew, guys, how's it going? Nice to have you here, because I've done different like Asperger checklists and stuff before, but I wanted to put like the most common traits, like the 5 most the 5 most common traits into a quick checklist here on this video and blog post, just so that you could have some really general idea of like what to look out for when you're looking at Asperger's syndrome, right? And something that could be really interesting if you're looking to help like understand and identify it for yourself or somebody you know, which is super awesome. Also guys, I do blogs and cool posts on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok videos, so if you want to catch me on any of those platforms, please add me at TheAspieWorld. I will put my handles on the screen here and also put an actual clickable link in the description below, so you can go and follow me on those places for awesome other content. Okay, so the Asperger's checklist. I wanted to do this because I feel like it's super fun and it's like a really good thing to do, where we just list out like 5 of the most common ones, like the traits and the kind of typical characteristics of somebody who has Asperger's syndrome. So I hope you enjoy. Buckle up, sit back, relax, and just enjoy the video. Okay, so number 1 is social interaction issues. Now, social interaction issues are people with Asperger's syndrome usually have a difficult time with social interactions. Like, they're unaware of unwritten social rules, you know, like hand gestures, body language, standing close to somebody, personal space, knowing when it's their turn to talk. All that kind of stuff is somewhat missed on people with Asperger's syndrome because of the difficulties in the communication in the brain, and they don't actually fully understand the communicative part between like social communication, because socializing and social conventions and social communication is something that is learned through just doing it as you're growing up, because you're kind of in those patterns and you kind of pick it up if your brain is neurotypically developed. But when your brain is neurodivergent, like an Asperger's autism brain, it's kind of a different pattern of communication, and so your brain reacts in a slightly different way, which is totally fine and it's super awesome, but it just does mean that there is social interaction issues that you should definitely be aware of. Okay, so number 2 is something that anybody can relate to, and look, I have to say this right now, okay? If you're enjoying this video and you relate to this next one, please give this video a thumbs up. I love seeing thumbs ups on videos, so if you can do that for me, that'd be absolutely fantastic. And leave me a comment, let me know, say, Dan, I'm totally getting this, you know, I totally get what you're talking about, this is super awesome. I read and respond to every comment, so give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and let's have a chat. All right, number 2 is repetitive behavior. Now, people on the autism spectrum, people with Asperger's syndrome, will have very niche repetitive behavior. So they'll like get up the same way every single day, they'll have the same thing for breakfast every single day at the same time, they'll wear the same type of clothes, they will drive to work the same time every single day, they'll do the same thing, the routine will be absolutely exactly the same. And for entertainment, they may like one TV show and they'll watch that one TV show every night that they come in, or they'll play that one game when they come in every night. It's kind of like a bit of a Groundhog Day situation, and if you have never seen that movie, I highly recommend it, it's awesome. But it's kind of like they have this repetitive behavior, this repetitive routine, because the idea of change is quite scary, and the idea of change is unpredictable, and that unpredictability is anxiety ridden. But when you have something that is completely in control, where you know what's going to happen, that repetitive routine, it becomes really comforting and calming, because you know there's no unexpected bugs in the road, because you've done it like 100 times. And that is why people on the autism spectrum really like behavior and repetitiveness. There is healthy ways of adding new things in and building new routines, and I actually did a very interesting webinar on this. So if you're interested in checking out that free training for parents and caregivers and people on the spectrum, click the link above here, the iCard, and check out that free webinar session I did. I'll try and also leave it a link at the end of the video, so you can click straight through to that, and I'll obviously put it in the description below. But I definitely recommend checking that out, because it's really, really helpful for routines and stuff. But there are healthy ways of doing that, but I think that like there's nothing wrong with repetitive behavior as long as the person who's doing it gets something out of it and it's not destructive for them in that kind of sense. Okay, so number 3 is stimming. Now, stimming is an interesting one. Stimming is short for self-stimulatory behavior that is really common in autism. It's kind of like a repetitive thing that you do. It could be like, you know, flapping their hands, it could be like tapping their fingers, it could be like circling something on their hands, it could be like, you know, moving their hands up and down, it could be rocking backwards and forwards or from side to side, or even stimming with something on their eye like this. And basically what it is, it's kind of like a calming condition thing. It's like it's something that you do kind of subconsciously, but it's something that you do kind of actively as well sometimes. So I sometimes find myself rocking from side to side like this when I'm interested in something, and if I'm worried, I find myself rocking forward and back and things like that when I'm really concentrating. And so it's kind of a self-comforting thing, and you will notice that stimming happens typically when someone is anxious or when someone is really, really happy. A lot of the time it does happen when someone is really focusing in on something, like when they're really researching something or they're really having to focus. Stimming will come into play because it's kind of like, you know, people can really focus when they chew gum. It's kind of like that, you know, when you're stimming, you're focusing on something because you're taking out that kind of like need to jerk, you know, because it's there, and you can use a fidget spinner, or, you know, it could be down to the fact that I have ADHD as well, and people on the autism spectrum typically have ADD and ADHD. So stimming is very, very common, and I don't think I've met an autistic person who doesn't stim. So it's really interesting, and it's very common. I think the rocking one and the hand flapping one are definitely the most common, but it's definitely something to look out for, and on a checklist. I mean, this has to be on, it's paramount. Okay, number 4 is monotone talking. Now, monotone talking doesn't mean like talking like a radio, you know, speaker, like hello. No, I'm not on about that. I'm on about just not having some variation in the upward inflections in their voices. Now, a lot of people on the autism spectrum have difficulty understanding how to place their tone in vocabulary when they're talking, and this kind of gives people a somewhat of a boring talking voice. I've actually had people say to me that my voice is quite soothing, but I guess it's because it's quite monotonal. But in terms of like boring, a lot of people in the autism spectrum, especially Asperger's, will have people say to them like, goodness me, you sound very boring because you're just very monotonal. There's not much excitement in that voice. And I try my best to have upward inflections and different types of pitches in my voice, because I've watched a lot of movies to try and figure out the best way to talk that makes people most engaged, because I'm just a super nerd in trying to communicate my feelings and stuff. So that's why I try my best, but it's something that's very common. It's because it comes from a fact of, like, again, it's communicative. Like, autism is a communication issue within the brain. It's a neurological neurodevelopmental condition that is affecting communication. Now, speech, verbal or audio communication is something that not all autistic people have. So there are some people who are mute, who are autistic, who are non-verbal completely, and that is absolutely fine, obviously. But the people who are verbal, and usually people who've had like diagnosis of Aspergers Syndrome or like lower support needs autism, these people usually have this monotonal kind of like voice, and can become very boring if the person perceives it as being boring. I don't think it's boring. I think it's super awesome. I think that people in the autism spectrum having such monotonal voices make it easy to talk to. But I think it's one of the reasons why people actually like listening to me in like a really weird, strange, roundabout kind of way. But not to be missed off the list. Super awesome. Make a note. So number 5, the big number 5. This one is literal thinking. Now, people with Asperger's Syndrome are very literal thinkers. They don't get sarcasm and jokes and kind of like figures of speech. You know, like, oh, it's raining cats and dogs outside. I'd probably think that you're saying that there's actually raining cats and dogs outside. And this doesn't get easy with age, and you can't learn it to a certain degree. You can understand more of it, but to a certain degree you do never like get over it. For instance, I'll give you some stories. First of all, when I was doing an access to science course before doing my degree, I was with a friend of mine who also has a son on the autism spectrum, but she was like eating a banana and drinking coffee, and then she put the banana peel inside the coffee cup and said, hey, can you put this in the bin for me? So I said, okay. So I threw the cup and the coffee in the bin, and she was like, whoa, only the banana peel in the bin, put the coffee cup on the side, what's wrong with you? And I was like, oh my goodness, I have no idea. In terms of that was really interesting. On the flip side of that, it's really funny when my girlfriend is like playing with my son and she's trying to pretend to shock him. Like, she does a thing, she's like, oh no, and like they're playing about or whatever. I'm like, what is it? You know, what's going on? Who died? And it's nothing. She's like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so jumpy? Because I take everything she says as like literal fact, especially when she's explaining a story where she says, blah, blah, blah. I was talking to my friend and I said, hey, look over there. So I'm like, what's over there? And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, what are you talking about? You told me to look over there. So I take everything she says quite literal, and it's really annoying, especially when you're trying to have like a good conversation with somebody, because like it's hard to follow that flow of conversation because taking things literal is just super, just like, ugh. But also, it doesn't work well with jokes and sarcasm. My friends play jokes with me all the time, and they just know that I'm going to be vulnerable to believe all the rubbish that they tell me, because I have no way of sifting through what's real and what's not. That filter isn't really there for me. So yeah, thanks friends. If you found this video interesting and fun and informative and can help somebody, please share it on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll see you next time, guys. Peace.